Welcome to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars. Our mission is to give you hope, knowledge, and encouragement on your quest for home ownership.
Housing affordability is at its worst point since 1986.
Higher mortgage rates are impacting Utah's housing market. Potential buyers out there being priced out.
It's getting tougher by the day to afford a home.
Many factors are making it very, very difficult with no relief in sight.
Homeownership may seem like an impossible mountain to climb in today's world. We're here to say that it is possible, and we're here to be your guide, to climb with you, to urge you forward all the way to the closing table. We believe in home ownership, and we believe in you.
Well, hello, home buyers. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Nelson Bars. I am an independent mortgage broker. I've spent nearly 25 years helping thousands of people purchase homes, and I'm here to help you get ready. This is the third Basecamp episode. These Basecamp episodes are intended to give you a broad overview of the home buying process and the qualifications, and we're going to build upon this foundation later. Today's topic is the process. We're going to talk about every next step, like I say, between here and closing. And today we're going to zoom out. We're just going to look at the road ahead, the roadmap, so that when you move forward, you can do it with confidence, knowing what's coming. So where should we start? What is the first step? How far back do we want to go? I mean, technically, just by listening, you are taking steps, right? And things like getting a job and building your credit and managing your budget are all prerequisites. Most of you have been taking steps toward homeownership for years. But at some point, you're going to want to talk to a loan officer to see if you qualify. And many start with a realtor instead, and if that's the case, a lot of times the realtor is going to send you immediately to a lender as the first step. So for step one, let's talk about getting pre-approved. It's really good to start with the right home price in mind, right? If you go out, you start shopping for homes and you fall in love with a home that later you find out you can't afford, you've wasted a lot of time and you've set your sights higher than you should have, and it kind of can be pretty depressing, right? So we don't want you to waste your time and your energy. Often we do have people who find the house first, and then the realtor sends them to a lender quickly. I've done a lot of Saturday emergency pre-approvals because somebody wants to make an offer on a home and they've never talked to a lender before. Sometimes those meetings go very well, sometimes they don't. But in general, it's far better to get your ducks in a row before you go out looking at houses. And it's also better to work with your own agent and not just the agent that's got a home listed for sale and you're calling them because you like the house. I think it's better to approach the market with a pre-approval letter in hand from your lender and an agent who can help you from the very start, from the home search process all the way through to the end. So step one is a pre-approval, and I just want to go over what a pre-approval looks like, what the process is of getting pre-approved. Some people I've seen advertise 15-minute pre-approvals. There used to be a lot of commercials out here. I don't hear them so much anymore. But there are some institutions who even just use a website, or they don't even have a conversation with you, perhaps a quick phone call, maybe a credit check, and they're done. And they put you out there to go shopping for homes. I think that can be risky if they don't look at all of your pay stubs, tax returns. This is when financing tends to fall through, is if the pre-approval wasn't done thoroughly, and it falls through at the end of the process when you're really out on a limb, right? A lot of people have heard horror stories of financing falling through. If your case is a slam dunk, maybe a 15 or 20-minute call is all it takes to get you pre-approved. But even then, there's more to do than just tell you yes or no in a pre-approval. In this conversation, I also like to educate clients. And I'll start by giving you time to ask about your future and to understand your short-term goals and your long-term goals. And then I just like to teach you a little bit about this process and look for ways to improve your credit, to help you get a better interest rate. So even if you're a slam dunk, the pre-approval consultation should probably take more than 15 minutes. I think this is the biggest investment you'll ever do. You should give it the time it deserves. If you're not a slam dunk, if there are problems, you're probably wishing someone would spend more than 15 minutes, right? Someone to crunch through the income calculations on your tax returns, or to work with an underwriter ahead of time to make sure that you've been given every chance to get approved and to get the best mortgage you can get. In fact, I've got an episode coming soon where we just dive into the pre-approval, what it's like to meet with me and go through a pre-approval. But just in a quick 2-minute nutshell, we always look for a time when both borrowers, if there's you and a spouse, can meet with me together. And before we meet, I would like to have you fill out the application. I will do a soft credit check. Doesn't hurt your score, but it gives me the full picture. And then we spend probably the better part of an hour where we're going over your situation and answering all your questions. There's no cost to you for this. I don't charge or get paid until we go to closing. We're going to review your past. How have you done in the past? Have you tried buying a home before? What's your current rent situation like? And then we're going to review your goals. Understanding your time horizon, it matters a lot. If you're going to be in a home for just a few years, you might choose a different financing strategy than if it's your forever home. And so we're going to review all your qualifications. We're going to go over, just like the last episode, we talked about down payment, debt to income ratio, credit, and so forth. We're going to go over each of those for you and what they look like and how we can improve them. And we're going to look at if you meet each guideline. And then I'll give you a copy of your credit and a written pre-approval letter. This written pre-approval letter is what you'll need when it's time to go make an offer, right? This is a lot different than going to a bank and sitting in a lobby and waiting for a chance to talk to a loan officer there. This is me sitting on your side of the table and putting my knowledge and research and experience to work for you. And in the end, like I said, you'll get a written pre-approval letter, and it's going to be designed. And in our pre-approval letter, we've put a lot of thought into how to make it strong, how to make you stand out when you go make an offer, and there's other offers sitting there for the seller to review. We want yours to be clearly the strongest offer, and it's not just about the purchase price. So I think you'll see our pre-approval letter is very strong. You'll also get the Utah Independent Mortgage app, which is basically a calculator that's designed and programmed on the back end with your specifics. So it knows what kind of interest rates and mortgage insurance, and it'll tell you if you qualify or not. You can even generate a new pre-approval letter inside the app, right? So that's step one, pre-approval. We'll meet together and we'll send you out there to go shopping for homes. Step two then is to meet with your real estate agent. It's going to be similar. You'll have a consultation. You'll sit down. You'll review goals and timelines. Oftentimes realtors can be very educational and help you understand about the market and what kind of offers are working and not working, kind of set up your expectations, right? You'll also go through and define for this agent what your needs and wants are. And so you can look at some listings. Most of the time they're going to set you up on an email alert where you get all the new listings. Honestly, I think that's really important. If you're just going to go online and search for homes and you're just going to see what's out there, you're kind of seeing the stuff that's been sitting a while. So either everyone else passed it up, all the active buyers didn't buy it, or it's priced so high that they're hoping to get a good price. I don't know. I just think the new listings, the fresh ones, are the ones you need to be looking at on a weekly basis at least, if not daily. Right. Anyway, that's step two. Step two is to meet with the real estate agent and define your goals and to get ready to go shopping for a house. Step three would be to actually go see some homes. So your agent is going to arrange probably a handful of homes. You'll go on a little tour, and they'll schedule a time to go see the home. The listing agent, the sellers, they leave. They're not anywhere to be seen in the house mostly. Dogs are gone. They've cleaned up nice, and they've left their home ready for you to walk in. Your realtor can unlock the door and walk you through the house. It's nice to have your agent with you because there's a trained eye there, right? They'll be able to spot things like mold, meth, water damage, old furnaces, anything that might be something you want to be aware of before you decide to buy this home. And they'll be able to answer any questions you have. Now, keep in mind, later you'll be able to do a lot more due diligence on the home, but at this point, it is good to have your agent with you as you walk through the homes. Eventually, you're going to make an offer. So you've looked at all these homes, you found one that you want, and it's time to make an offer. So what does that look like? An offer is done in writing. You'll sit down, just you and your agent, and you'll define the terms. You'll use a form. Usually they use the Utah real estate purchase contract that the state provides, and it's been written in a way to protect buyers and sellers and provide some structure to the transaction. and you're going to decide with your agent what the purchase price would be that you'd like to offer. And you're going to decide on things like, do you want to ask for the seller to pay some closing costs? You want to decide how much earnest money you're going to offer. So let me define these two things. So getting the seller to pay your closing costs is actually not as uncommon as you might think. I remember when I was young, someone once told me, oh yeah, you should buy a house and the seller will pay your closing costs. And I just remember thinking, why would they do that? Why would a seller pay my fees? Well, the reason why is because they're the ones with the money, and oftentimes they know that the first-time home buyers don't have the money. And it's all done on paper, and you're going to just boost the price. So if you say, we want to offer $400 for this home, and we want you to pay $10,000 towards our closing costs, then the seller knows that they're going to net $390. And if that's not enough, maybe you need to do $410 so that they net the $400 that they were expecting to get. But the seller has the ability to roll that into the sale and still walk away with a bunch of cash. And they know that a lot of buyers don't. So you're basically just rolling in things like concessions. And honestly, there's other things you can roll in too as a concession when you structure your offer with your real estate agent. You might want to ask them to fix something or include something in the sale, right? Whether it's furniture or, fixtures in the yard or anything like that, playground, trampolines. You could ask for those things as part of your offer. You could also ask for money to repair the home a little bit, carpet allowances and things like that. As long as it's written correctly in the contract, those can be included. And you'll decide on those things all alone with your agent and get ready to make an offer. The earnest money is another piece where you'll decide how much money are we willing to put up in a holding account, an escrow account, as consideration for them taking their home off the market for a month while you work on processing. So that earnest money is a dollar amount you'll offer. Maybe it's $1,000, maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $10,000. You decide how strong you want to make your offer. Just keep in mind that earnest money is going to come back to you if you decide to cancel the home and move on to a different home, right? So it's kind of like showing that you're earnest about buying the home, and you're putting up some money that says, hey, if we don't abide by the terms of this contract, you get to keep our earnest money. And we'll talk some more about earnest money. But, there's contingencies where the earnest money is tied to. For example, there's a home inspection contingency. So usually you give yourself a couple of weeks. You'll set a deadline. Our due diligence deadline is 2 weeks in or something like that. And if we want to back out because of a home inspection issue, we can do it, and you'll give us back our earnest money, and we'll move on and look for another house, as long as you do it before the deadline that's tied to that type of work, the due diligence, right? Same thing for an appraisal contingency. There's another step where you can say, if the appraisal comes in low, as long as it happens before this date, we can back out and we get our earnest money back and we move on and look for another house. And then there's a financing contingency as well. So you're going to structure this offer, and you're going to sit with your agent and decide on all these things. You'll even decide on a closing time frame as part of your offer. So, okay, we're offering you this much money. We're asking for this much in concessions from you, and it is dependent on our home inspection and our appraisal. But if everything works out, we'd like to close in 21 days from now or 30 days from now. And one of the nice things about working with us is we can go really, really fast. Our team can get a loan closed in less than 2 weeks if we need to, and that can help your offer stand out against other offers as well, right? Now, when you sit down like this, your agent, a good agent, will have already done some research. They'll know how much is a fair price for that home. They can do a comparative market analysis and look at what other homes in the neighborhood have sold for. They'll be able to tell you what's important to the seller. Maybe they've had a conversation with the listing agent, and they've gathered a little bit of intelligence about what the seller needs in terms of timelines and contingencies, and they've already kind of moved yourself a little closer to the target by understanding. And if you work with one of our preferred agents, this is the kind of work they do ahead of time before you just submit an offer without any research and hope to get a house, right? Okay, so you're going to gather this up. You're going to sit down. You're going to fill out the contract. It's a 5-page document, and you'll send it. Your agent will send it to the other agent. And usually you're going to give them about 48 hours to respond, sometimes more, sometimes less. You decide with your agent, and then you wait for a response. A couple things could happen. You might find out that there are multiple offers on this house. So they'll come back and say, we've received multiple offers. We would like everyone to submit their highest and best offer by this date and time. And so you may meet again with your agent and talk again and determine what is our highest and best, what's the most we're willing to do on this home, how bad do we want this home, and how aggressive do we want to make our offer. But remember, there's a lot of things in that offer that you can change, not just the price. You can change the concessions. You can change the timeline. You can change the earnest money. And if you have a good agent, they're going to be able to help you structure your offer stronger in all those ways, not just the purchase price, right? And remember, all this is communicated through your agent. You're not actually negotiating with the seller directly. The agents are doing this and then going back to the people they represent and getting decisions, right? Honestly, sometimes the agents negotiate on your behalf. An agent, this is really interesting. So think about the word agent. This is someone who you've hired to be your fiduciary. A fiduciary means that they are legally required to help you succeed as much as possible in this negotiation. So they represent you, and you've authorized them. They're legally allowed to advise you on the contract. They're legally allowed to negotiate for you. Now, they aren't going to be able to accept a deal on your behalf. I mean, it's your signature that has to go on that contract. But that can happen, right? And you might end up with multiple offers, and you have to put your highest and best foot forward. Sometimes that's not the way it happens at all. In fact, multiple offers are pretty rare. Most common is you're just going to get a counter offer from the seller. They've received your offer, they've looked it over, and they may want to ask for one or two changes from your offer. So maybe a higher price, maybe a faster closing, but that counter offer can come in, and usually that's pretty exciting because you like the terms, right? And so you might just sign it and accept it, and you're done. Other times they won't even counter offer. They might just like the terms. They'll sign it, and you have a contract. And whether it takes a lot of back and forth or not, it's an exciting moment. All the parties have agreed, and now you have a contract. And the term we use is you are under contract. It's pretty exciting. The search is over. You know where you're going to live. You know what the price is. And you've hit a huge milestone by going under contract. The next step, immediately after you go under contract, I'm going to want to meet with you and do a rate lock consultation. We're going to review all the lenders again. We're going to check all their prices and pick the best one for you, and we're going to lock your interest rate. What that means is that you are no longer subject to the market movements. Up until this point, if rates go up, rates go down, it affects your monthly payment. But once you're under contract, we're locking that rate for you, and it can't get worse. A lot of times I get the question, what if rates get better after I lock? And the lenders don't really let you take a better interest rate, right? If you lock at 6.5 and then rates go down to 6.25, it's pretty tough to get them to give you 6.25. You have to negotiate pretty hard and give up some extra money and things like that. One of the things I love about being a broker is that I have many lenders that we work with, and if there's time, we can actually move your loan and lock with a different lender. And the nice thing about that is that can be leveraged to keep the loan with the old lender too, and we can just talk to them about renegotiating and say, well, the rates are better, I can move this, we have time, we can transfer the appraisal, we can do anything we need to still close on time and get you the better interest rate. So working with us, you kind of get the protection on both ends. You get to make sure that if rates go up, it doesn't affect you, but if rates go down, and it has to be significant, we can't just do it for a little sliver of a better rate. But if the rates go down, we can actually get you that rate as long as it happens with enough time to still close with a new lender, right? The other thing we'll do at your lock consultation is we'll look at your timeline, and we'll ask, how long are you going to be in this home? Do you want to pay extra closing costs to get a really good interest rate or not? And it kind of depends on the market environment for rates. If we expect rates to go down in the future, I'm not going to encourage you to pay a lot of money to get a beautiful interest rate that you could get for free next year with a refinance, right? Or you're not paying a bunch of points. You still have to pay closing costs, but you don't have to pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to get a good rate. Maybe save that money and just get it when it's not costing points to get the rate, right? And we'll talk about points. Points are extra closing costs that you can pay to buy down a lower interest rate. Some people choose to pay points. Quite often, most people pay 1 point, which is 1% of your loan amount. But you can also go the other way. If you want to not buy down your interest rate, you could take a slightly higher interest rate and the lender will pay you. They'll give you a lender credit, right? So we'll look at the timeline and we'll decide where you're at. Is this a long-term loan for you? Is this a long-term house? If so, we may want to do some points. If it's a short-term house, short-term loan, we probably don't want to do some points and buy down the rate. I'll ask you the question, how much money do you want to bring to closing? And that answer depends on the house, right? You might need some money afterward to repair, paint, new carpet, some furniture, things like that. So you'll give me a dollar amount. We're hoping to bring half of what's in our bank account to closing and keep the other half. And I want to make sure you like the way your loan is structured. So we're going to make sure you have exactly, you're sitting there with me and you're setting up your loan, right? My goal is that you walk away knowing that you got the best deal possible for you. And most clients do feel that way once they've met with me and we've done a lock. At the end of that lock-in consultation, I'm going to set your expectations and you'll know exactly what to expect on closing day, which is usually, like I said, about 30 days away in most cases. You'll know how much to bring to the closing table, what the amount due will be. You'll know exactly what your monthly payment is going to be. And I'm going to provide you a locked loan illustration, which is my guarantee to you. If anything changes after that point, I'm going to pay those fees. If anything goes up and gets worse, I'm going to make it right. That's our commitment to our clients. When we provide that locked loan illustration, it's very reliable. And honestly, that's not always the case. A lot of people sadly get some surprises at the closing table. Okay, so the next step, loan processing. Once we've set that expectation and I've locked your loan, you're going to start working with my amazing team. This is where your file gets handed off to one of my loan partners. So this is not an anonymous call center person. This is someone whose main job from that point to closing is to hold your hand, explain everything, answer every question, and be available full-time to help you. Unfortunately, there are a lot of situations where you get in other companies or even other things that I've bought, the salesperson is great, right? The experience up until the moment of commitment is wonderful. And then afterward, there's a huge step down and the service is horrible, right? With us, we want you to feel like it's a step up, not a step down from the moment you lock moving forward. So you're going to have someone who's full-time, who's dedicated, caring. That's important when I pick a loan partner. I like to find someone who's not good at disappointing people, right? Hates to disappoint people, and knowledgeable and experienced and even tenacious. My loan partner fights with underwriters and they're not overwhelmed. I don't like to see them with 20 files on their desk. In fact, most of the time they only are working on 4 or 5 files at a time, which allows them to really give you as much attention as you would need. So this loan partner is much more than a processor. A lot of companies will hand you off to a processor, but in my team, it's a little different. This loan partner is really your advocate and your partner from that moment all the way through to closing. And I'm here too, full time. We look at your file every day together, and I'll be the one who goes to your closing. So we'll talk a lot during that time, but you're going to get another person to help you out, right? So this loan partner is going to review everything that you've uploaded during the pre-approval process of all the docs that we've seen, and probably request some new ones, some fresh pay stubs. They're going to send you some disclosures for e-signature and walk through them so you understand them. They're going to order title work. They're going to order appraisal. The loan partner really becomes the hub of the wheel, coordinating with all the parties. You got realtors, insurance agents, appraisers, title companies, the underwriter, you and me. There's a lot of communication that goes through the loan partner to manage that process and give you a really good experience. At the same time, our team will also process any down payment assistance applications that you want to make as part of your process. So we offer something rare. It's just a down payment assistance concierge service, which means during the pre-approval, we're going to research and present any down payment assistance options that you might be eligible for. And then during the process, we'll submit those. We'll coordinate those. Most other lenders are going to leave you on your own to go find down payment assistance and figure out how to get that money to magically show up at the closing table. And what I find is that a lot of people don't have that ability. They're trying to move, right, and to chase down another loan at the same time as the one we're processing. It just doesn't make sense. We already have all your information. It's easy for us to process. That's what we do. We process loans and we process down payment assistance. So we're going to coordinate with all that. Sometimes there are more than one down payment assistance at the same time, and we're going to make sure that all that money shows up at the closing table for you, right? Our standard, we're all about speed here. You're going to see at the very beginning, we're going to put a lot out there. First 3 business days is kind of like a flurry. We're going to ask for more from you. We're going to get going with title work and get it submitted to underwriting right away. The underwriter, just to explain to you what the underwriter does, this is the person at the lending institution who is the final approval authority to let us go to closing. So they're going to review the file, and like I said before, they don't really have a lot of decisions to make other than making sure that the data that was fed into the computer that made the decision is accurate. So they review your income, make sure that we calculated it according to the loan guidelines and everything else too, assets and work history and things like that. Usually what we get from the underwriter is a first approval, which is a conditional approval, and that usually comes with a couple of conditions, a couple of things we need from you to finalize the loan. And then after the next review, we get a clear to close, where we're said, okay, this is good. You are ready to go to closing. Sometimes that process takes a while. You're going to see a lot of back and forth from us and you and the lender, but we'll guide you through that. And you have a lot of other things you're focusing on, so you just let us run it. So while we're processing your loan, you are going to be working on a lot of other things. First, you're going to be paying your earnest money. You'll either give that to the title company or to the real estate agent, and they'll put it in their trust account. And then you're going to be working on the due diligence phase. You'll do any research you want to do about the home, the neighborhood, the HOA. You're going to receive from the seller a disclosure called the seller's property condition disclosure. It's really nice to have this before your home inspection. And what that does is lists out any problems they've had with the home, any repairs that they've made, and how they've repaired the issues that may have arisen. So you know where to zoom in on your home inspection and look at, the roof leaked 10 years ago and it was fixed in this manner, and let's go look at it, right? And that brings us to the home inspection. Your agent will probably recommend a couple different home inspectors, and you'll pick one. They usually charge about $400-ish, give or take, depending on everything you order as part of the home inspection. And it's a very thorough process. The home inspector will probably spend multiple 3 to 4 hours at the home, and you'll join at the end and probably spend an hour with the home inspector walking through the house, and they'll provide you at the end with a written report that shows you all the little issues that may have been found in the home. And those little issues, honestly, there's going to be a lot, right? You don't always need to have the seller fix everything. You're going to pick and choose 1 or 2, 3 or 4 big issues that are important to you. Say, hey, for example, the water heater is missing, the compression tank, or there's some rust on this fitting on top of the water heater, and we'd like you to replace that before closing. Or we want a new water heater before closing because this one is 10 years old. Something like that, right? That's the home inspection. You can also upgrade your home inspection. You can pay for things like radon tests, mold tests, meth tests. Those cost a little extra. And it's important to note that this home inspection is not for the lender. It's just for you. The lender's never going to see it. And that's good, because if the lender were to see it, they would probably start requiring all this stuff, little things to be fixed. Really, the only way the lender gets eyes on the property is through the appraisal. And remember, the property is their collateral, so they do care about the condition of the property. You're going to want the home inspection and any other research to be done prior to the due diligence deadline, because if it comes back and shows any issues, then you can back out, right? This is a leverage point for you. You can reopen negotiations if you're doing this ahead of the deadline, and you can ask them to fix stuff, lower the price. You can also just move on and get your earnest money back and go look for a different house. And those are moments where you'll be glad you have a really good real estate agent to help you, because now you're trying to force the seller to fix some things or lower the price. And so I'd really encourage you to work with a great agent. And if you need a good one, like I say, we have some excellent preferred agents that I would love to recommend to you who can do these things and do them very well for you. Okay, so once the home inspection is done, the next step is going to be the appraisal. And we usually like to wait for the home inspection to be done. Unless we're rushing this file and trying to close it in less than 3 weeks, we like to have the appraisal done after the home inspection. Sometimes appraisals are even waived. You may not need an appraisal at all because the algorithms will come back and say, we're satisfied with the value that you've set on this purchase price, and we don't require an appraisal. Honestly, that's only available if you do more than 10% down. And even if you do get an appraisal waiver, you can still order one if you want, if you'd like to know independently what the home is worth. But we won't need to order one as part of your loan if it gets waived. Most of the time we're ordering, especially for first-time home buyers who don't have 10% down, we're ordering the appraisal, and our team orders it. It has to be ordered through a hands-off process. We use this appraisal management company, which is in between us and the appraisal, so that we can't cherry-pick appraisers. So we'll submit the appraisal order to appraisal management company. They offer that work to at least 3 different appraisers, maybe more, and whoever picks it up becomes the appraiser. And they're not employees of our company. They're not employees of the lender, and they're not employees of the real estate company. They are truly independent. And I'll just talk a little bit about how appraisals are done. What's the methodology? The appraiser is going to show up and measure the house, and they're going to determine the square footage independently. And they're going to list out the number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, the number of garage bays, number of fireplaces, all the features that add value to the home. And then they're going to search for 3 to 5 comparable homes that have either sold or on the market with similar size and features to your home. And then they'll take a weighted average of those sold homes, and that's how they report their estimate of value. They may put more weight on the home that is most similar to yours, and they'll also adjust these homes a little bit if they're not quite perfectly matched to yours. They'll adjust the numbers until they are adjusted to match yours, and then they take the average. When you get the report, you're going to see a map of all the comparables that the appraiser used. You'll see pictures of the outside of each home that was used as a comparable. And he or she will also list any major problems with the house. If they've walked through it and seen, health and habitability issues like broken windows, water damage, they're going to point that out, and that becomes an issue that the lender's going to want fixed before closing. Some examples that we've seen of these things would be maybe missing handrails on stairs, exposed electrical wire, mold damage, water damage, things like that. Peeling paint can be a big one if there's, a problem with the exterior protection of the home. If there's exposed wood, those things will be called out by the appraiser. And if the appraiser calls something out to fix, then it needs to be fixed prior to closing, and we'll have to send the appraiser back out, pay him another fee that'll be added to your closing costs, unfortunately, to take pictures of the fixes, the fact that the paint has been scraped and reapplied or something like that. So there's another moment where the renegotiation happens. In fact, sometimes it's not just repairs, but the value comes in low. Maybe the value is a little bit lower than the purchase price that you have set, and you'll need to reopen the negotiation with the seller. There's another time to have a really good agent who's going to go to bat for you. But honestly, the seller will usually agree to fix what's wrong, and sometimes will lower the price, or you'll meet in the middle. You'll lower some concessions to make the pricing work for the lender. In some cases, the repairs can't be done prior to closing. And in those cases, we may be able to do an escrow set aside where some money at closing gets set aside to fix up the repairs after closing. That money is held by the title company or by the lender, depending on the severity of the repairs, to make sure that the work gets done after closing. But this is pretty rare. Most of the time, they're going to want stuff fixed before closing. Okay, so the appraisal, it's actually a really big milestone. Once that comes in and it's satisfied, there's usually not a bunch of problems with it. I would say these issues with repairs and low purchase price happens 1 in 20 appraisals comes in with any problems at all, right? But the moment the appraisal is in and settled, everyone becomes fairly assured that we are going to go to closing. Some companies wait until that moment to go to underwriting, which I always hated. There was places where I worked in the past where I couldn't get them to move fast enough to get a file into underwriting before the appraisal was done. But now that I'm running the company, that's really important to me. We like to have all the underwriting done way before the appraisal comes back, so the appraisal is the last piece, and we just have the underwriter review it and sometimes ask for clarifications, but we go to closing fairly quickly after that. Anyway, at this point, you are packing your home, you're arranging friends to help you move. We've hit a major milestone. We're through with the appraisal, we're through with the financing, and now it's time to start preparing for closing. So I'm going to say step 9 here is the closing preparation phase. You're going to get that clear to close from the underwriter. All the conditions are satisfied. And we'll send you a closing disclosure, making sure that all the numbers are right. And the law requires that you get that a minimum of 3 business days prior to closing. And honestly, we usually do it quite early, maybe a week or 2 before closing. But those documents, once you've signed it, we can go ahead and send closing documents to the title company. And it takes a little time to prepare that, but we get those documents ready, and then we will meet to sign those on closing day. And I will be there if at all possible, and if not, we're going to have a call before closing to review the numbers and make sure you're getting exactly what you were promised on the day we locked. Your real estate agent will usually be there. If not them, then a representative from their office or from their team. And one important thing that I would say is this can be a pretty stressful moment. Our process, I require the closing docs are always at title the day before you go in to sign them. And in my career, I've seen it happen many, many times. If you ask the title companies, it's very common that even on the day of closing, you're still waiting for documents, you're still waiting for the underwriter to clear your loan, wondering if you're going to be approved. Many times people end up sitting at the title company for hours waiting for the docs to be delivered. And then when the docs come, they find errors. They got to fix the errors, and you got to wait more hours to sign the documents. It can be kind of a mess, kind of a disaster. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. With us, you will not walk into closing wondering. We have a great track record of delivering on our initial promises, and we don't have surprises at closing, last-minute changes, more money due, higher monthly payment, things like that. I'll say it again, if I miss anything on the initial quote, I'm going to pay it at closing and not you. So while we're getting the docs ready, while we're finalizing the closing package, you're going to be doing a final walkthrough most likely with your agent. So you'll go back to the home and make sure everything is to your satisfaction. Things have been repaired, nothing new has been broken, right? And you'll probably end up getting a little more information from the seller or from their agent about the house. Here's how you, for example, turn off the water, things like that. And then we get to closing day, which we talked about. We're going to sit down, and you can probably plan on signing about 100 pages. You're going to have an escrow officer there who's a licensed neutral third party. Even though I'll be there, I'm really just there to answer questions. Same with the real estate agent. Most of the work of the closing is done by the escrow officer, and they're going to walk you through each page and explain each one briefly. If you want time to read every page, which some people do, we need to arrange time for you to sit with the docs before the signing appointment. You can have a room at the title company, or you can take the documents home. You can take the documents to your attorney if you really want to, and you can read them and understand them ahead of time so that at the closing appointment, the brief explanations are usually plenty. You understand what you're signing. And, we go slow through the ones that are detailed, like the numbers and the terms of your loan, the note that explains the monthly payment timing and those kind of things. But we get to a point where, maybe 20 or 30 pages in, the documents are really just simple disclosures like, hey, if you miss a payment, we're going to report you to credit. And this sign here to say, you don't feel like you've been discriminated against, and that you do intend to occupy the home, and here's who your servicer is, here's who you make monthly payments to. They may sell your loan later. Those are the kind of documents you'll sign. And it tends to go pretty fast once you've gotten through the initial, 20 or 30 pages of numbers and terms of your loan. The whole thing usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Often you'll have questions, so it could take longer, and that's fine. We'll talk about how your escrow account works, what's going to happen with taxes and insurance, because you'll pay those monthly, and that gets set aside in an escrow account until the annual bill is due once a year. We'll talk about when are you going to get your keys, what are your moving plans. We'll talk about your home warranty, if there is one, and they'll give you some paperwork. A home warranty is something that's negotiated at the beginning. It's part of that initial offer. It's common for the seller to pay for a 1-year home warranty that covers all the systems in the house. So we'll make sure you know how to use that home warranty at the closing table. And we'll discuss turning on utilities for the house and just giving you a good start to your home ownership. And like I said, I'll be there. The real estate agent will usually be there to answer any questions. At that point, the documents are going to be notarized by the escrow officer and sent back to the lender. And that's where we'll just receive final funding approval. Usually it's the same day. Sometimes it's the next day. But you're going to be able to take ownership of the home. The title company, once they get that final funding approval, they'll record the transaction on the county records, and they'll send out a notice. The escrow officer will send out an email to everyone. We are now on record, which means you are now the homeowner legally of the home. And so step 12 is you get to move in. You can probably visualize what that's like, but I just want to point out a couple things. So there's a part of your contract that determines when you get possession of the home. So it's one of the things that you'll put on your offer is that we would like possession either upon recording or 48 hours after recording. Maybe the seller will come back and say, actually, we'd like to be able to stay for a week after you close and we'll pay you a little bit of rent. Those are things, but the contract will dictate when you actually get possession. And so when that happens, the listing agent is going to remove their key box from the home. They'll probably work with your agent to determine where they're going to leave garage door openers and keys. And then you get to move in. After closing, the home warranty company usually will come and change the locks on the home for a small fee. And oftentimes you may have already coordinated things like movers, carpet cleaners, any other contractors to come in and do a couple of repairs. So one thing I would say, it's really important that you work with a lender who can get you closed on the day you expect and isn't going to throw a wrench in the whole mix of your plans because they didn't move fast enough at the beginning and all of a sudden there's a problem, or we have to kick closing back 2 days. It can really throw a wrench. You have movers scheduled, you have carpet cleaners scheduled, you have friends coming in, and so we want to really be ahead of schedule so that we can give you a predictable, reliable day of when you'll be moving in. It's really important to me that closing day is a good experience for you. It can really create a lasting impression on you of our business. We want your referrals, we want positive reviews, and we want you to be our customer for life. And to botch the closing day kind of makes that impossible. So we're going to work really hard, make sure you have a great experience at closing. When is your first payment due? Just so you know, a mortgage payment is always due on the first of the month. That's just a conventional, and FHA, VA, all of them have the same first of the month payment due date, and all of them will allow you to skip the first one, right? So if you close in the middle of the month, you're not going to have to pay right away on the first. You got to skip that payment. It's actually covered in the closing docs, closing costs, a little bit of interest, so that you can skip that payment. And so oftentimes your first payment isn't for 45 to 60 days after moving in. It's just the first of the month after the month that you would normally have your payment due. So we'll stay in touch after closing. I'm going to send you emails and newsletters. I really want to be your lender for life. I want you to be aware if there's opportunities to refinance your mortgage and get a better interest rate. The way a refinance works, and you wouldn't want to do this very often, right? Because you do have to pay closing costs. So we only want to do it when it really benefits you, where the benefits outweigh the costs. But at some point down the road, you may want to replace the mortgage with a cheaper one, right? And we can do that with a lot of different goals in mind. We might be hoping to lower your monthly payment, but some people would rather shorten the term. So we can refinance you from a 30-year to a 20-year or a 15-year loan. We can also do cash out. Things like upgrading the house, finishing the basement, consolidating debts are all great for cash out. Just keep in mind it's going to be a while before you can do cash out, because cash out loans are limited to 80% of the appraised value. So you have to really own the home for a few years. It needs to appreciate until you have enough equity to where you can take some out and still leave 20% there, right? Oftentimes the moment to refinance is when we can switch you from an FHA loan to a conventional loan, or we can remove mortgage insurance and really improve your monthly payment. And as I said, the closing costs are a factor. They get rolled into your loan. You don't have to come up with them out of pocket again, like you do when you're purchasing the home. Someone has to pay them at purchase, either the seller or the buyer. most of the time. But on a refinance, we can roll them into your loan. We just don't want to do that unless you're saving enough money to justify that. So we'll be really careful with you. We'll look at a cost-benefit analysis, and a lot of it has to do with your timeline. If you're not going to be in the home for a while, it probably won't make sense to do a refinance. We'd rather wait and get your new loan when you move to your next house, right? One thing that I'll do for you is we use a rate alert software tool where we'll talk after closing and say, okay, someday we're going to want to refinance. What interest rate should we set as the target for a conversation? And we'll just program that in so that when rates get there, we'll get notified and we'll have a discussion and we'll talk about your plans and the costs and the benefits. We'll see if we can help you save money. Well, hopefully that overview is helpful for you. If you find it intimidating, just remember you will have a team of professionals who do this over and over again for hundreds of clients. And the most important two people in that team are the ones who you see and hear on a regular basis. It's your lender and your real estate agent. And I hope to have the opportunity to be your lender and to help you. Along with your agent, I'm going to coach you through every step of the pre-approval, all the way to the closing table and beyond. And I'd love that opportunity. Well, there you have it. You have officially finished the Basecamp episodes. I hope you found them helpful. You can officially consider yourself more educated than many people who successfully buy homes in our market today. From here, the coming episodes are going to be more topical. We're going to talk deeper about these topics. We'll take deep dives into individual questions and experiences from clients. If you have questions, I would love to hear. If there's something we didn't cover in these Basecamp episodes or something that came up that you still don't have clarity on, the best thing you could do is record a voice memo on my website. You can just pull it up with your phone, go to homebuyersquest.com, and right on the homepage there's a little microphone. Just hit record and ask your question. That'll come to me. I'll be able to respond on the podcast. And if you give me your email address, I can actually send you a direct answer or call you and we can talk about it. But what I'm looking for is listener questions that we can use as topical podcast episodes in the future. I hope you'll keep listening to future episodes. I think it can be a great way to stay motivated and to keep making progress. And I hope you will keep making progress and keep taking steps on your quest to be a homeowner. As you know, I believe it is well worth it. So thank you again for listening, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Utah Homebuyers Quest podcast with Nelson Bars, your place for a strong dose of inspiration and knowledge so you can stay on top of your quest for home ownership. If you have a question or comment for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Visit homebuyersquest.com to record a voice memo or submit your question. You can also join our Facebook community to interact with experts and fellow travelers. Search Homebuyers Quest on Facebook to find the group and join the conversation. But with just a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to the next episode. And remember, we believe in home ownership and we believe in you.